Hello class. In this video, I'll show you the basics of video editing in Premiere. So first, we'll launch the program and we'll start with a new project. And here you can save it to a location. So here I put it in the downloads folder and give your project a name. I'll see editing in Premiere. And for the settings here, we don't have to deal with that for now. So keep it as a default and click on OK. And we'll use the assignment for the first lesson as an example. As you can see here, I provided a link for you to download the project files. And here are the files. First, we'll import our file to Premiere. Okay. So you'll go to your project section, and you can just double click here and find the file, select the file, and import it here. Or I prefer just select all the files in the Finder and drag them into Premiere. Here we go. For the file I provided, it is 1080 HD video. So if you film your video in 1080 HD, frame rate as either 30 frames per second or 24 frames per second, and you should be good. As you bring your file here, and we can start editing your project, your video with HD 1080. So let me show you how. So first, we'll have to create something called a sequence. It's the same as composition in After Effects if you have taken the DGR fundamental class with me before. So here we'll go to the top menu, File, and New, and we'll create a new sequence. And it's out of the frame, you may not be able to see that. On the bottom, you can put a name for your sequence. And here are all the settings you can use. And we can just use 1080p 30. And as I said, if you film your video with 1080 HD and 30 frames per second or 24 frames per second, even though here you choose a different setting, we can change it back to here. Alright, so don't worry for this step. If you choose the right setting, that's good. If you choose a different one, that's okay, we can change it back. Okay, so here put a name for a sequence and click on OK. And here's our sequence. And here's what opened in the timeline. And here we get all of the layers. The V1, 2, 3 are the video track. The A1, 2, 3 are the audio track. So in the assignment, I ask you to choose 2 shots from each of the video clips provided and edit them together into a new video. So first, let's bring our first video clip in. So this is our first video clip. And as you can see, when I drop it in, it says this clip doesn't match with the sequence setting. You can either keep the existing sequence setting or change the sequence setting to match with your video. Okay. So that's to say, when you create this sequence with the wrong setting, for example, if I choose 720 HD instead of 1080, and here I can just say change the sequence setting to match with the video, and it'll change it back to 1080. If you film your video with the correct setting, you should be fine. Right? So here I'll say change the sequence setting to match my video, since my video is 1080, right? And this is the video track and this is the audio track. And we can grab our current timeline and let's see if I want this part, the forest one, and I can cut it here. Okay, so you can choose the razor tool to cut, right? Or you can use the shortcut. As you can see, the shortcut is the C. So if you hit C on your keyboard, you will switch to the razor tool. And I'll cut it here. And then I want it to end at here, so I cut it here. All right. So I want to keep this part. I switch it back to the selecting tool by hit VK. Okay, and I'll select the first part and hit delete. Okay, and I'll bring this clip back from the beginning. All right, and then and then I want this part. Okay, and I can hit CK and cut from here, and C again and cut it here, and then use the VK, switch to the selection tool, and delete this part and delete the end part, and then bring the second clip back to here. All right, so let's see. Now we get two clips, right, from the first video, and the total runtime, if I put my current time at the end point, the total runtime is 8 seconds. So you can shrink it. Let's say if you don't want this whole thing, and I can just put my cursor at the end point of this clip and shrink it, right, and bring it back and shrink it a little bit. So now the total runtime is 5 seconds. All right. So we have got the first two clips, and now we'll use the second video footage, bring it in, and you can put them here, or you can leave a small gap. Okay, since we'll do editing. And for the second video, I want this part, and I'll cut from here and delete the first part. And I forgot to mention that the ruler on the bottom is for you to zoom in your timeline or zoom out. Depends on how much detail you want to see, right, for editing. So I want to end that here. So cut, right? And then I zoom out and bring this clip back all the way back to the beginning. And then I want this part. So cut from here and cut from here. And then hit VK, switch the selection tool, delete the end part, delete the center part, and bring it back. Here we go. So now we get 4 clips, right? First 2 clips from the first video, other 2 clips from the second video. Total runtime is about 8 seconds, and I can extend the third clip a little bit. So now the total runtime is about 10 seconds. Perfectly. Alright, so that is the first step. And second step, I will mute the original soundtrack in the video and use the audio provided as the background music. Let's see, in most scenario, as you film a sequence of footages, and you want to keep the original soundtrack in the video, right? The environmental sound or the dialogue. However, in some cases, you don't like the original soundtrack and you want to mute all of them, and then you want to do a voiceover. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. So we can either, click on here to mute this whole track. Okay, and now if I play, it doesn't have any sound, right? And then we can drop in our soundtrack, the music, and bring it into another soundtrack. So that way, we'll mute the original soundtrack and add the music soundtrack, right? Or instead of mute the sound, and you can select each of the clip, right click and unlink. Right click, unlink. Okay, right click and unlink. So by unlink them, now you can see that I can select the video track and audio track individually. So that means I can just delete the audio track of the video instead of delete the whole thing. And then I can bring the audio track in. So the audio track now is the music, and the video only has the video without any sound. Okay, and to let the audio to match with the video, I can just hit CK to bring back the razor tool and put my cursor here. As you can see, it'll snap to the endpoint of the video, and I can cut it here and then delete the endpoint. Okay, so now the audio will match with the video. And at this point, we have completed our task, right? And then we can export the video. However, before we go that far, I want to show you some extra thing. So I have mentioned that voiceover, right? What if you're not satisfied just adding the music to your video and you also want to add some voiceover, the voice commentary to your video? So here I also recorded a voice and I can bring it in. And then I can bring this voice track in the middle. Very easy, right? So it only has 4 seconds, so it doesn't match the whole thing. But if you get a longer voice, and you should cover the whole thing. And now if I play,
This is voiceover for DK 251.
right? And if you think this is too loud, you can select this one and add the effect control, and you can reduce the volume by click on the level and bring it to left. Okay, don't go all the way to minus 280 because that way you will mute your audio. So I want to try. So I'm going to put a number here. Try -6 first.
This is voiceover.
Okay, if it is not enough, try -12.
This is voiceover.
Okay, and you can see by changing the number, it automatically creates a keyframe for it, which is not what I want. Okay, so you can remove the keyframe by just click on here, this blue icon. It'll remove them. Okay, so now I can just change the volume without creating any keyframe. And now I can play.
Hello, this is voiceover for DK.
Okay, it's better. So now you can see that Premiere is very professional, you know, when you edit your video. However, it's a little bit complex than iMovie, right, or Microsoft Photo for Windows. But if you have access to Premiere, definitely I would suggest you edit your film with Premiere. It's complex, definitely, but it's more professional. All right. So now with everything edited, we'll move on to export the video. So go to File, go to Export, and Media. So you can change the name by clicking here. You will be able to export it to a different location. See, I already set it to download folder, so that's fine. And format, just keep as H264. It is a very common video codec. It compresses your video to a small size without affecting the quality of the video. And preset as high bitrate. Okay, export both video and audio. All right, and then you can just click on export. It'll export your video very fast. All right, here we go. Here's the video. I just edited.
Hello, this is voiceover for DK 251.
All right, so that's the basics of video editing in Premiere.